everyone, welcome to Hinduism Question and Answers. We've got a lot of very interesting questions today. The first one is actually a very distressing situation. We got a newspaper clipping about a 7-year-old girl who was raped in a temple in India. Somebody asked a very pointed question saying, where was your God at that time?
You see, this is a very important issue that we have to address, and what I'm going to say next is going to rattle a lot of Hindus, but so be it. You see, the reason why we have this issue, in fact, let me rattle you even more. For 1,000 years, we were ruled by people who were hostile to us, the Muslims and the Christians. And we hear these horror stories of our temples being, destroyed, our women being raped or sold into slavery in Arabia. Now, of course, my question to all the Hindus is this. You've been bowing down to all these millions of gods, going to temples, visiting all the places of pilgrimage, doing everything that you could think of, worshipping, chanting, meditating, doing everything for all these gods. Where were your gods when this was happening? Not one little girl being mistreated like this, but millions of Hindu women, men, slaughtered, raped. Where was you? Where were all your gods? Very important question. Now the answer is this. This is a very important issue to address and to talk about. You see, as I keep saying, Hinduism comes into two flavors. The esoteric Hinduism, that's how Hinduism started, was not focusing on a God in the heaven at all. It was just talking about the human condition and resolving it. Now that particular approach is called the esoteric Hinduism, and its starting point is discovery that we are not what we think we are, not the body, mind, or the intellect or the ego, but there's something deeper within us which is manifesting itself through this body and mind complex. This is the beginning of real Hinduism. No gods were there. So we did not have gods when we started this journey of spiritual journey. So this is, if you like, the esoteric vision of Hinduism, which is called a principle-oriented Hinduism rather than a personality-oriented Hinduism. All these personalities, all these gods came in after Buddhism. After Buddhism went out of India, all these gods and goddesses appeared on the Indian scene. Before that, they were not there. The idea was simply focusing on our essential nature as the spirit and the essential nature of the universe as a spirit, as Brahman. So this was the esoteric vision of Hinduism. So if you fall back on the esoteric vision of Hinduism, then this question is not so difficult to address. It's not sorted out, but at least it's an easier way to explain why and there was no God interfering or jumping into the scene and sorting you out. Even though you had all these wonderful teachers, sayings that God will help you when you're in distress. Millions of women, millions of Hindus were slaughtered, and yet these gods did not turn up. If the Hindus had focused on the esoteric aspect of their tradition rather than this kind of more personality-oriented aspect of Hinduism, they could have done a better job in fighting off the invaders. But because they're focusing on this external God to come and help them, no God came, and they were in serious distress. So the idea is this: when you think of the ultimate reality, not a super personality, oh God, I'm here and I'm going to help you and you pray to me. That's much later. The original idea was the underpinning to ourselves and the world that we see around us is essentially spirit, and the words we use were Atman and Brahman. When you think about this principle-oriented Hinduism, then you can respond to this serious issue of why such things happen. Horrendous things happen even if there's a God in the background. I'm saying bluntly, when you think about the idea of God as a principle rather than as a personality, you are safe. Let me show you. Suppose you believe in the idea of gravitation. Now, gravitation is a principle, not a super, Mr. Gravitation, God gravitation. And you think of gravitation as if you like, underpinning to this world, we experience it all around. Now, you see, this is a principle-oriented idea. Now, you say, okay, we love gravitation. Because of gravitation, we can live on this earth happily. Others will float away in space. So gravitation is a wonderful thing. Let's turn him into a personality. So you turn gravitation, this idea of principle is gravitation, is a personality, Lord Gravity. And you build a temple, and you crack coconuts, and you worship every day. And then one day you take your friend for a walk near the mountainside, and a huge rock comes down and kills your friend in front of your eyes. You say, this is terrible. You run to the Lord Gravity, the temple that you built, and say, Lord Gravity, what have you done? What have you done? You killed my friend. What will Lord Gravity say? He said, the very thing that was holding you down will bring rocks down as well. You can't have it any other way. So when you think of the ultimate reality, not as a personality, but as a principle that underpins the reality, then you can say, this is how the cookie crumbles. This is the way of the world. When the spirit manifests itself, it's a good habit of biting itself, killing each other. So this is, if you like, a principle-oriented Hinduism which stands a better chance of responding to the serious issue of why there is so many atrocities in this world, and why doesn't God step in? Because there's no Lord gravity saying, okay, I'll stop it, I won't bring the rock down. It's the power of nature, it's a principle, and it doesn't stop. So when the rock comes down, you can't stop it. This is the way cookie crumbles. So please, Hindus, realize it's wonderful to focus on the ultimate reality as a personality. As a principle, is difficult. So we need these personalities to link up with. But the deeper vision, if you lose sight of it, then you get clobbered, as we did with all these 1,000 years of slavery. So recognize your true dignity and divinity as a spirit, and then you can address the issues that you face in this world.
Okay, following on from that, we've got another question saying, what is the importance of Atman and Brahman?
You see, this is a follow-through in a way, the question, because I mentioned the word spirit underpinning this reality. And of course, people say, Mr. Lakhani, okay, God as a personality comes with a lot of baggage and unanswered questions, we understand. But you keep talking about God as a principle, Atman and Brahman. What the heck is this? This is important for us to address. Many Hindus struggle with the words Atman and Brahman. In fact, if you ask your adults, your parents, what is Atman and Brahman? They have no clue. Is it because it is airy-fairy? No. To the contrary, it is so subtle that even your intellect has difficulty in grasping it. So you say, but Mr. Lakhani, this is not good enough. We need something to grasp. You can't just say, it's difficult to explain or difficult to articulate. Give me some handle on what is this Atman and Brahman. The idea is this. They say, underpinning this reality, a principle, in the nearest words the Hindus have devised to try and get a handle on this underpinning to reality called Brahman. Expressing itself through the universe, we call it Brahman. Expressing itself through individuals, we call it Atman. It's just basically saying the same thing, manifesting the creation, Brahman. The same thing manifesting through our eyes, we call Atman. So there is a link, but they are saying, what the heck is this? Give me some handle on it. And this is a serious issue. And the three handles the Hindus have devised to try and kind of conceptualize the idea of Atman and Brahman are following. They come from Adi Shankara, and these are the words they use. Asti is of the nature of Asti, is of the nature of existence. Like you say, okay, what exists? What does God exist? They say, no, it is of the nature of existence. Whatever existence itself is underpinning to reality. Existence itself. So Asti. Then the second word they use, Pati, it's of the nature of consciousness. So it's not consciousness that peeps out of your little eyes when you wake up or you become born or something. Consciousness is the underpinning to this reality. It finds expression in living things, looking out through the living things as the witness to the whole of this creation. So Bhati is consciousness. So Asti, Bhati, and the third one is also very sweet. It says Priya. Priyaness is of the nature of bliss, not happiness, bliss. Happiness and unhappiness go together, but bliss is something dramatically different. It's not pleasure and pain. So the idea of the Brahman that we are talking about, or the Atman we are talking about, is of the nature of existence, Asti, of the nature of Bhati, consciousness, and of the nature of bliss. Now it's not what we search for in life, pleasure and pain. No, this is something higher. It takes you away from pleasure and pain, rises above pleasure and pain. It's called bliss. Now you say, Mr. Lakhani, okay, you got three words you've thrown in my face, but still, what the heck is this? The answer is this. This is the beauty of this tradition. It says the only way you can ascertain what is this Atman or Brahman, you heard about it, sounds okay, nice linguistic ploy, existence, bliss, and consciousness. But what the heck is it? How can I be sure about it? You must ask questions like this. Your tradition says don't believe in it unless you experience it for yourself. Oh, yes, this is your insistence of your tradition, saying existence, this idea of underpinning is really exists, but I can't, how do I? You actually can experience it, my friend, I'm telling you. When you are successful in meditation or successful in becoming a spiritually enlightened person, you are able to touch base with this thing called Asti, Bhati, Priya. And they're not three separate things, they merge into one. The same thing that gives me existence gives me tremendous bliss. We howl like that. And it makes me more conscious, more aware of the reality than millionfold more than I can see you now. So existence, knowledge, and this existence and bliss, and these are not just airy-fairy words. Once you touch it, you know how dynamic they are, they'll change your life forever. And unless you experience it, you have to simply say, I've heard about it, sounds nice. How I cannot be sure unless I experience it for myself. Have that kind of courage to go and explore this further. This is the beauty, if you like, of this tradition. It forces you to experience spirituality, not just believe and die.
We've got another question saying there's a lot of confusion around the scriptures, so if you can please clarify that.
Indeed, there is tremendous confusion. In fact, one of the biggest problems the modern Hindus face in India, as well as in other parts of the world, is this issue of scriptures. You see, majority of Hindus have been brought up on Puranic stories, legendary stories. And we love legendary stories because that make religion accessible, digestible, colorful. So we all love this kind of idea of, spirituality explored through colorful narratives. We love that. So the Purans, if you like, are a way of, in a way, getting access and making idea of spirituality digestible for us. And this is where all the gods and goddesses appear in the legendary stories. So this is, if you like, the background to the idea of Puran. Please be careful. Majority of you have not been exposed to anything more than the Purans. Majority of you have been weaned on the Purans. You are in love with the Purans. Your parents are in love. If I even say they are legendary, they jump up and say, Mr. Lakhani, how dare you say it's legendary? It says Puran, legendary. Make the distinction, because then you are safe. All these colorful gods and goddesses interacting with each other, all these colorful narrative stories are just, if you like, legendary stories to try and involve ideas about morality and ethics and adventure and so on. So it's wonderful. It has a very important function to fulfill. Because otherwise, the subtle ideas of Hinduism are very difficult to grasp. So the colorful narratives, in a way, allow us to grasp this deeper idea through colorful narratives. And that is fine. I agree with that. There are two stories that we say are not legendary, and they've got a historic foundation, and these are the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Again, I warn you, friends, watch it. Lot of material you find in the Ramayana and the Mahabharata may have been exaggeration, may have been added or subtracted. The reason? These stories were told over thousands of years, and every time a story is told and retold, there is always some addition and some subtraction taking place. This is human nature. We like to kind of say, let's try and focus on this idea, and let's take out this, doesn't look nice. So even the story Ramayana Mahabharata, we say have historic foundation. I'm telling you, it is historic foundation. These are serious issues. And yet be very aware that a lot of stuff in it may be exaggerations, may have been taken out because it doesn't sound right. So once you are aware of that, then you are safe. So you've got the storytelling, the Purans, see them as what they are, Puran. Don't be frightened by that. Even though look, I was brought up on the Puran. I love the stories, and I was brought up on the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. I love those epics as well. And yet, when the questioning started, I said, I must move on from the storytelling to the philosophy of Hinduism. And that is when a serious journey begins, whereby you can, in a way, get a more intellectual grasp of your religion, not just colorful storytelling. They will not hold your hand. Suppose you tell these stories to the people at your college or school or the place of work, they'll find it laughable. So it is better for you to say, look, my friend, this is the colorful narrative part. We have a much more serious philosophic aspect of Hinduism that talks about Atman and Brahman. Now, where does they appear? They appear in the scripture authority of Hindus, and the heart of this scripture authority are the Upanishads. Upanishad literally means, come near, I'll destroy your delusion regarding nature of reality and who you are. Because you think, I'm this little tiddly fellow, there's something more to you. And this, if you are like, this exploration is explained in the Upanishads, the throbbing heart of philosophic heart of Hinduism. That doesn't have much interest in gods and goddesses. It talks about the ultimate reality, the nature of reality, if you like, the existence that you see in front of, what does it reflect? And this is, if you like, the esoteric ideas of Hinduism where it focuses on Atman and Brahman, the principle-oriented Hinduism rather than the personality-oriented Hinduism. Look, I don't mind personality-oriented Hinduism, but I'm telling you, my friends, we live in an age of science and rationality. Unless you move on from this storytelling part of Hinduism to the more philosophic aspects of Hinduism, you will have a great problem in trying to convince your youngsters to believe in their own religion. So you need to show them. I'm telling the people who do storytelling, I say, look, tell the youngsters, look, this is the beginning of a spiritual journey. This is the kindergarten. Now grow up. It has got a lot of interesting material, a lot of moral stories, a lot of interesting, colorful storytelling or presenting spiritual ideas in a colorful manner. Good for you. But then, when the chips are down, you need to shift from this colorful storytelling to the philosophic aspect of Hinduism, which is, if you like, the Upanishads. And again, you might say, oh, do I need to read up 108 Upanishads and there are little aphorisms, difficult to understand? I say, look, my friend, your religion is a living religion, evolving religion. It produces modern giants who present the same ideas of Upanishads in your own language, in your own times. Focus on those guys. I was completely taken over by Vivekananda, because when he presented the idea of spirituality and suited to our time, which is rational, sensible, it really stole my heart straight away. I was studying physics, and yet I was immediately in love with Hinduism, because I focused on a modern proponent of Hinduism who presented religion not as a colorful storytelling, but if you like a philosophic exposition of what this tradition is all about. So you need to make the distinction between the Puranic stories, even the Ramayana and Mahabharata, and the Upanishads and the philosophic ideas, not only ancient, modern ones. Then you are safe. Sorry, I have to introduce Padma. I forgot to mention the other lady had to leave early, so Padma is now back in her seat.
Yes. Hello, everybody. I'm sorry Sitaji had to leave, but we're here with Mr. Lakhani for our Hinduism Q&A, weekly Q&A. Oh, so Rahul Ghoshji, you have a question for us, which is firstly, his question is that, can one be spiritual and non-religious at the same time?
Oh, yes, this is the beauty of spirituality, because in underpinning all religions, this is my particular understanding, underpinning all religious tradition is a spiritual dimension. But when a particular spiritual dimension is expressed through this kind of religious dialogue, it turns into different religions. So spirituality is a much more deeper vision regarding nature of reality. Religions are, if you like, limited expression of the spiritual ideas. So all religions in a way are trying to reflect the spiritual dimension to this underpinning that we have, and yet they become polarized and they turn into different religions. So you can be spiritual without being religious. Look, I am like that too.
Thank you so much for that question, Rahul Ghoshji. We have a number of questions that are coming up, and please do keep watching. Tell us where you're watching us from. And hello, Tuskrant Sahuji. So please do like, share, and invite your friends to watch this weekly Q&A. I'll jump straight in with the second question, which is, what do the Vedic texts have to say about food? What kind of food should be consumed, and what kind of food should be avoided? How must it be grown and even presented, if there is a mention of that? Any sources and references would be very great.
Okay.
That is from Yashwin Ghosh. Thank you so much for that question.
It's a very elaborate question, and I'll be very honest. Even though I have looked at Vedic scriptures from time to time to satisfy myself, I have not gone into great detail regarding what they have prescribed as suitable food, etc. But I can fall back on the Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita is in a way a synthesis of the Vedic teachings. In chapter 17 of the Bhagavad Gita, there's a wonderful idea that the different foods that you consume in a way shows up your own, if you like, inner structure. Now, for example, the Hindu traditions, especially since the time of Sankhya Darshan, said underpinning to this reality are three attributes, three gunas, or the three threads that when they are woven together create the whole of the universe, the physical universe, the mental world that we live in, including our intellect, including everything that we can think of, can be in a way classified as something that is manufactured by these three threads intertwined: sattva, rajas, and tamas. Now in the Bhagavad Gita, there's wonderful, the whole of chapter 18 and 17 are focusing on this idea of tamas, sattva, and rajas. As I said, this is the beginning of Sankhya Darshan, the beginning of true Hinduism. Now, on the issue of food to be consumed, it says if you are of sattvic, sattvic basically means you are peaceful, you are spiritually oriented. Rajasic means you are highly active, you like to be passionate about your lifestyle story, etc. You are full of passion. And tamas means you are full of inertia, laziness, and tamas, ignorance. So these are the three threads in the human nature. Now the sattvic person will choose sattvic food. And how does Bhagavad Gita define sattvic food? Anything that invigorates your life, gives you greater, if you like, vigor, makes you more peaceful, makes you much more kind of focused and kind of devout, etc. in spiritual matters, consume that. So any food that in a way, and they say that food that is, like for example, the kind of stuff they recommend is like if you eat fruit and grains, etc. It is sattvic food because it's kind of in a very sober manner turning you into a sober human being rather than a kind of highly passionate human being. So this is basically the idea of sattvic food. It invigorates you, doesn't give you exact prescription saying eat this particular grain and don't eat grain. Doesn't step out like that in the Bhagavad Gita. The second type of food is called the rajasic food. That is very tasty, very tangy, but it can really, in a way, wind up your emotions. And we know that. That is why a lot of Hindus will not eat garlic and onion, because they say they'll wind me up. So the rajasic food is that will wind you up and want you to be more active and kind of passionate about life and kind of perhaps, take on much more perhaps than you can handle even. So this is the rajasic food that kind of, in a way, is stirring you up emotionally, etc. So this is the rajasic food. And the tamasic food, the Bhagavad Gita says, is that food which is rotten, which sell by date is gone, which is, wasted, got, kind of severely, damaged. So that kind of food is tamasi food, because when you eat something that's rotten, out of date, etc., it in a way brings in inertia and tamas within you. So they say avoid that altogether. Again, how do I do this? How can we live our lives? Idea is, look, sometimes you need rajasic food to wind you up, nothing wrong. At the same time, say you like tasty food and so on, but sometimes this food that is kind of much more suitable for your good health may not be so tasty, and yet this in a way takes you to the idea of sattvic food. Look, this is not a complete answer. This comes from chapter 17, verses 7, 8, 9, if you want to look it up.
Thank you so much for that. So basically what you're saying is that you are what you eat.
Yes, we believe that. Look, the body and the mind are strongly linked. I did say it again and again. The body and mind are strongly linked. So whatever food you take in becomes part of your body, even your mental growth, and that is why there is a strong link with body and the mind. So whatever you're feeding the body is going to certainly affect your mind. If you're eating food that stirs you up, your mind will be in a whirl. While if you eat food that calms you down and keeps you more sedate and much more focused, that of course is going to be sattvic food.
Okay, thank you. We have a lovely question here from Nishit Bhai, which affects all of us. It is, what is the source of happiness?
Okay. This question I have to spend more time on it, because a lot of people ask me this question. It's important for us to explore it. Let me tell you my story. It's better to make it so personal, so you think this is, I'm not just talking from some books. For source of happiness, where do we go? For example, at one stage in my life, I used to live in a huge house with a indoor swimming pool. I was, very highly, kind of commercial person, and I used to live in a huge house with swimming pool and all that. And I said, wow, we have made it. Look, beautiful house, possession, property, lovely property, beautiful. We have made it. We have really hit the jackpot. So it was yahoo, like that, just for a few hours perhaps. And then every day we had to go and jump in the swimming pool. And then after a week, my daughter said, I don't want to go in the water. I am fed up. I don't need to go in the water. I said, well, my daughter, we are spending 10,000 pounds per annum to heat up the swimming pool water. Jump in. So what appeared like bringing happiness became a chore, became unhappiness. So be careful. When you kind of focus on physical or material gain as the source of happiness, you will really fall short. So in a way, this idea of trying to search for happiness in our material frame, in the material world, seems to fall short of the target. Try it out in your own life. Suppose you love to go on holidays. You want to go on cruise. Wow, yahoo, go. And then you say, I've saved money for the whole year, and we are going on a cruise, and we go to this Bahamas, wherever, and sit on the sand, and we enjoy. This is life, happiness. I'm telling you, try it out. Once you arrive there, so far so good, and then you go on the beach, and the sun is out, the waves, everything is nice, and blue, beautiful waves. Wow, this is it, I've got happiness. Ask yourself, how long does it last? You get a spike, wee-hee, for 5 minutes perhaps. And then the spike goes away. It disappears. And you get a bit of a kind of downside to it, downsize. And you say, now what do I do? How do I spend 7 days here? If I sit in the sun too long, I'll get, sunburned. And where is my lunch? And the sand is getting in my eyes. And what? In half an hour, you'll be fed up of your paradise. Again, you see, this is try it out on yourself. I mean, another example I use quite often is, because I teach at Eton College, and next door is Windsor Castle where the Queen lives. So I ask the boys, look, boys, the Queen has got everything you can think of. Position, power, money, everything you can imagine, the Queen has got it. So, of course, you would imagine that the Queen is jumping up and down, yahoo, euphoric day and night, I've got everything. Everybody bows down to me, calls me mom, and I've got, here, crown and everything. So that you think the Queen should be euphoric day and night, say, yahoo, I've made it. Look at her face. She looks so depressed and bored. See what has happened? Searching for happiness in your material frame doesn't really produce the right results. It immediately gives you a spike, and the spike drops, and you pay a price for it. Suppose you love to drink, I love alcohol, I could drink. You drink so much, you get a little bit of a fizz, and then next morning you got a headache, and for next 48 hours you are in trouble, you are puking. See, you pay a price for it. So this idea of looking for happiness in the material world is a very limited vision. And let me tell you now where I got some wonderful ideas. Harvard University conducted a survey which lasted 80 years in 1938. They had about 268 youngsters. They said, now we're going to follow the youngsters' life throughout their lives and see where they get the happiness from. This is serious, Harvard University research. So they followed these youngsters until they were in the 90s. In fact, John F. Kennedy was one of the candidates. And they kept quizzing these youngsters, where is your happiness from? Where is your happiness? And after 80 years of research, so these guys, many of them died. After 80 years of research, this is the result of that survey regarding the source of happiness. And you'll be very amazed to see this. The study says happiness does not come from property, possession, power. John F. Kennedy, look, power, or any other faculty like alcohol. Happiness does not come from any of that. You say, wow, I thought this is where happiness lies. More property, possession, and everybody bowing down to me, and I've got power, I can tell people what to do. This surely is happiness. The research is saying no. And alcohol came at the bottom of the league. It creates more problems than it solves your problems. So the answer is, where is happiness from? And this is why this Harvard study is very important. Look, suppose I say this is the Vedas. You say, who cares? Harvard University research on source of happiness. And you like the answer. They said the source of happiness they discovered is through relationships. If you've got steady relationships with your partner, with your family members, with your kith and kin, or with the greater society, that is a steady source of happiness. This is where you get contentment, that you are happy in your life. So it is relationships that brings about happiness. It's Lakhani, very interesting, but how does it relate to Hinduism? This is how it relates to Hinduism. You see, the Hindus say, look, anything that takes you back to your true nature, in a way is good. And this is what is happening. When you start linking up other human beings, whether they're in your family or outside your family, you start linking up with them, feel comfortable with them, feel at one with them. You see, you are going back to your true nature. The thing that is percolating through these eyes is percolating through those eyes too. So when I build relationship with others, I'm in a way invoking my spiritual dimension. And that is the source of happiness. Didn't I tell you happiness is bliss, priya? And this becomes visible not through material things or even mental exercises or gymnastics. It comes through this linking up with other human beings, other living things. When you begin to feel one with other human beings, you are going back to your true nature as the spirit and not the body and the mind that you possess. And that is the source of happiness, linking up with other human beings. That is why my mentor Vivekananda said something very dramatic. He said, they alone live who live for others. The rest are more dead than alive. They are carrions wandering about, munching these, eating these, running on holidays, going around. And they equate a frenzied lifestyle as a fun lifestyle. It's nonsense. The real fun style is when you are peaceful and calm and not a quivering animal. This is the message that comes out of Vivekananda and of Harvard University.
That's wonderful that there's this extensive research by one of the most prominent educational establishments has brought forward for us. So basically, what we're saying is that it's the law of humanity, isn't it? There's no greater religion than humanity, and so those who live for others are the ones who are happiest of all in this. And relationships, I don't think only mean just for people, but also for animals also.
Anything, all living
creatures and so
even
on.
non-living thing, Brahman, everything is expression of Brahman. Everything is essentially spirit. So even if you like the plants and you look at the forest and you look at the trees and the river, that's why we dignify rivers and mountains and everything, because we see spirit everywhere. That's why we call the river and the mountain, like father and mother and so on. So we are building relation with the whole of this creation.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. Welcome, Vanessa, and welcome, Judy. I understand it's early morning over there, so very nice of you to join us. So very good to have you on board. We'll jump into the next question here. There's a question from Sivadas. Hello. Can you elaborate regarding many devatas? Many have misconceptions as a Hindu worshipping many gods more than one.
Yes, we have tackled this question repeatedly again and again. First of all, the idea of many gods in Hinduism. We do not have many gods or many ultimate realities, many personalities that underpin this reality. Even if I believe in God as a spirituality as a personality-oriented religion, that's fine. But then it's only one. But there are many ways of thinking about it or trying to relate with this idea of supreme personality. So you can believe in God as a Vishnu or a Shiva, a mother. Don't say one is higher than the other. These are different ways, different individuals have tried to build relationship with the spirit. by personifying them and building relation. This is called pluralism. Many ways to be spiritual, many ways to relate to the idea of spirituality. This is central teaching of Hinduism. It comes from the Rig Veda and of course from modern giants like Vivekananda. Ekama satta vipra bahuda vadanti. Many ways to be spiritual, many ways to relate to the idea of ultimate reality. This is central. So the idea of ultimate reality is single, but many different ways of relating to it, building relationship with it, and so on. That is a central teaching of Hinduism. If any movement within Hinduism, no, we alone are right, the rest of you are going, tell them get lost. There are many ways, and you are undermining the central feature of Hinduism, which is pluralism. Many ways to be spiritual.
Thank you so much for that. We have a question from, I believe it's from Yashwin Ghosh again. What do the Vedic texts have to say about food? What kind of food should we... Oh, we did this one already. Sorry, I'm so sorry about that. There's a lot of confusion about... We've done this one as well. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit confused. Indra in Vedas. Yes, we have a confusion here. We have Indra in the Vedas and other gods in Puran. Why is this change there?
Yes, this is an interesting thing to explore. Because in the Vedic scripture, this is the ancient Hinduism. As I said, the idea was that how to kind of link up with the nature of it, how to kind of build up relationship with the world that we see around us. And this is true with all civilizations, not only Hinduism. And the way said, okay, the forces that we see around us are like fire and wind and rain and water and sea and so on. So we said, oh, sun, etc. So we said, in order for us to build relationship with these forces of nature, let us personify them. So they say, okay, there is the wind god, there's the fire god, Agni Dev, and the sun god, Surya Dev. So we started personifying, and then to build relationship with them, we would do havan, we would kind of appease them, and we would offer some kind of food, etc., grains and ghee, etc., and saying, let's build a relationship with the forces of nature. This is true. This is how ancient ideas of religion were there in other civilizations as well as in the Hindu tradition. Fair enough. Now, then the question arose. Now, if there are so many different gods, Varun and Indra and Vayu, surely there must be one god who keeps everybody under control. Otherwise, they run amok. They might do contradictory things. So there must be somebody saying, no, you can't do that. Yes, you do this. So they say, look, let's generate one god of the gods. One god who can keep all these other forces of nature gods under control. And we give the name Indra. And this is, if you like, the Indra is the original idea of ultimate reality as a personality in the Vedic scriptures. Throughout the Vedic scripture, you'll see hymns to Indra all the time, and hymns to all the other forces of nature as well, Agni, Vayu, Varun, etc. So this is the ancient idea. So this is how we kind of were focusing on the ultimate reality as a personality, and Indra became the central figure. But then we had this transition. We see we are evolving, living religion, and then we had a transition. The transition was, okay, after Buddhism, Hinduism almost disappeared at the time of Buddha. And only it was revived. But when the revival came, all these gods, goddesses and temples sprang into being. We were trying to, in a way, because what Buddha was saying is, don't focus on God, just focus on your human condition, resolve it. Now, it is difficult to digest for a common man. For a common man, the idea of super personality to hang on to, catch their feet and say, please save me, help me, is natural, is human failing. So whole of India suddenly is decided to try and focus on not one but many gods and goddesses. And of course the three prominent gods that became visible after the time of Buddhism were Vishnu, Shiva and Mother Goddess. So this becomes the three major pathways of relating to the idea of spirituality in a personalized manner. And this is after Buddha. So after the Vedic period, we had the Buddhistic period, and after at the end of the Buddhistic period, all these gods and goddesses were kind of become visible in the Indian scene. And so be it. Look, I'm not vilifying. This is how evolution takes place in religious journey. So all these other gods and goddesses came after, and then Indra was completely forgotten. In the Vedic scripture, there was mention of Vishnu as a younger brother of Indra, means it's a little tiddler. But then in the later period, Vishnu becomes the major giant, and of course you see the lovely interaction between Krishna and Indra, because they were not going to worship Indra anymore, and Krishna said, don't worry, stand on your feet and sort yourself out. This is Krishna's message in the Govardhan story. So we see the transition. And so these other gods, especially Vishnu, Shiva and Mother Goddess, became prominent after the Buddhistic era.
Thank you. That was a very interesting question. Vanessa, thank you very much for your comments. And I would stay a little bit less on the old uncle side. But yes, I'm very glad that you are enjoying your spiritual breakfast, and I hope many others are also. Sivadas, in response to your question, Is there any possibility to conduct seminars in Middle East? Please do. The best way is for you to invite your friends and colleagues who are there with you, and then they can join us like other people from around the world are doing. At the moment, that is the only possibility. Sarbjit Roy, welcome. You are here with us. We have a very good question here. Why cows are only relevant in Hinduism? Why not goats and other animals? Please, could you enlighten us on that?
You see, when I give tremendous, kind of reverence to the holy cow, saying cow is a very special animal that allowed human beings to settle down and become civilized. It's not a minor thing. I said this on ZTV last week. You see, cow is not just like any other animal, because the thing is this: if you look at the ancient scriptures, the Vedic scriptures, etc., you see the idea of cows as the main, if you like, asset of the people. So if a king was very happy with a particular, spiritual giant, Yagnavalkya say, okay, you can take 1,000 cows as a present. So cows was like the monetary system of ancient India. So cows were central. Why? Because there was a wonderful symbiosis between the cow and humanity. And this allowed humanity to settle down, start farming, grow, all the crops. And once you settle down, you can have language, you can have civilization, you can have families, societies. So it is this gentle cow with whom we kind of built up a relationship over about 10,000 years back. And this is the history. So we built up a relationship with this cow. It was symbiosis. We protect the cow, and the cow gives us milk and all sorts of other byproducts that we use. And so this symbiosis in a way allowed the Indian civilization to flourish. You say, but why not goat? Look, if you look at the demography of India, cows are perhaps much more prominent all over India, and goats are perhaps less prominent, except perhaps in Kerala or somewhere. So it is not because we are kind of saying give cows special position and goats are nothing. We are not saying that. We are simply saying if goats were the main animal that allowed humanity to settle down and become civilized, we'll give equal reverence to the goat. Maybe in some parts of the world, the goat is more important, like camel is more important in, say, Middle East. So maybe they should revere the camel. But we are saying for the Hindus, the cow has been not only Hindus, for a lot of humanity, majority of humanity, cow has been the major source of allowing protein, etc., that allowed human beings to settle down, wait for the crops to grow up, and become civilized. So please pay special respect to the cow because it is more prominent animal. That's the reason.
Yes, I do remember from my school time that we were always taught that the cow is the animal that domesticated man, basically, if you turn it around, and I can understand that very much. So we have a question here from Tuskrant Sahu, who says that underpinning to this reality, everything happens by the will of God. But how can Brahman will?
Okay, it's a very good question. This has been asked to me many times, but then in different guise. I'll tell you in different way. I'll rephrase the question slightly different. I hope you don't mind. Somebody said, Dilipbhai, there's a bhajan that says, patte patta, every leaf is moving by the will of God. So he said, why should we bother with anything? If everything is happening by the will of God, why should we interfere? This is what you're singing. But then the answer is this. Didn't Hinduism say that you are essentially God? So if you say, no, I don't want this leaf to move, I want to tear it up, that's the will of God as well. So even though the Brahman itself is not a personality, so it doesn't, say, okay, this is my will. Human beings say will, and this is my kind of strong, attraction, etc. I say, this is my will, I want to do this. Tremendous attraction to carry out certain activity. I say, this is my will. It's a human expression. Brahman as a principle is not bothered. But when this Brahman makes itself visible through all the humanity, all the living things, kingdom, everything, then this Brahman kind of develops this will. Oh, this is my will. And then Vivekananda said something very dramatic. He said, this big question about, is there free will? He said, can't you see? When you use the word free will, it's a contradiction in terms. Will is always somebody's will. So it can never be free. So you see, it's tied up to you. So it's not free anymore. So please be careful. Free will, even though it sounds like a great philosophic issue, in a way it's a contradiction in terms. You can't have free will. You're in a way chiseled by your own nature, nurture exactly how you think and what you will be willing to do or not willing to do. So in a way, be aware. And yet the thing that's standing up with you, say, no, I have free will. It's showing your spirit that doesn't like to be curtailed by your nature or nurture. It's trying to break free all the time.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you. So friends, do like, share and invite your friends and colleagues, and whether you're watching on replay or whether you're watching on live, we broadcast live Hinduism Q&A every Saturday at 1 o'clock from London with in the presence of Mr. J. Lakhani, who is a lectures at Eton College, the very famous Eton College. So, our next question here is that how will Hinduism react to men getting killed in war? Hence, one man has one wife is not suitable. Why? There are several questions here, so we'll just stick with this first one.
You see, these questions I can imagine have been fired towards the Hindu by the Abrahamic tradition. Because in the Abrahamic tradition, they might say you can have more than one wife, and say, well, nothing wrong with it. A lot of young men got killed in a war, so there are so many women, and you might as well get them married to one person, so one man can have more than one wife. This is understandable, pragmatic. It may have been suitable for the Middle East about 1,000 or 1,200 years back, because there were a lot of wars, a lot of men were being murdered. So if the situation demands that more wives can be looked after by one man, because it solves the problem of society. Otherwise, a lot of loose women wandering about and destroying marriages. So it may have suited a particular age, but look, we have moved on. Hopefully, we don't get so many men murdered anymore. Hopefully, but if there is a big war where a lot of men get wiped out, then again I would say morally it will be perfectly all right for one man to have more than one wife. But if it is not necessary, at the moment the ratio is roughly same, men and women. So at the moment as the ratio is same 1:1, let's say one man to one wife. So it's a question that should be in a way relevant to the ideas of Middle East about 1,000 years back, where all the men were getting slaughtered. There were very vicious tribes killing each other.
Thank you so much for that. The second question we have on that list of questions is why did kings marry many wives? But before we move on to that question, I know that there are places in India, especially in the mountains, I don't know of the exact regions, but it's not always one man with many wives. It's actually the other way around as well, because there are some women with many husbands. So I can understand in terms of culturally or locality wise, that it may be necessary, and then it is acceptable.
Pradma, you really touched it. I should mention this. In the Himalayan regions, from time to time, there's a imbalance between men and women. It happens. It's happened in the history many times. So imbalance is such that there are more men and less number of women. So now the women are spoiled. Instead of the man saying, I have 3 wives or 4 wives, the women can say, I have 3 husbands. In a way, the story of Mahabharata reflects this particular vision. Because you heard this Draupadi marrying 5 brothers. I'm not saying that, but this is true. In a way, it's a cultural issue, as Padma quite rightly says. It's a cultural issue. Sometimes the demands are such that you can't have, if there are more men or more women, then you have to somehow balance the equation. And in that case, it will be morally right for one woman to have more than one husband. So be it. The women also smiling. Yes, we wish we can do that. One husband for the weekdays, one for the weekends. Go for it.
Thank you. So our question was, why did kings marry many wives?
Because I tell you very blunt answer, they could afford it. Simple as that. They were in power and they could see a lot of beautiful women and they were under their mercy. They can say, I want to marry this one, I want to marry this, and the fathers would say, please marry my daughter and make her a queen. So this was, if you like, the special kind of position the kings had with a lot of money and power, so they could afford to do that. But many noblemen used to marry more than one wife as well in the same time.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Thank you. And does the Gita provide a solution to future like Abrahamic religions?
You see, as I said, these questions are fired by somebody from the Abrahamic tradition trying to, in a way, show weakness of Hinduism, being very blunt. Now, they said, okay, in our scriptures, we already talked about not only the past, the now and the future. We say we know exactly how to sort human condition out for eternity. Does the Bhagavad Gita talk like that? No. Because we believe in reincarnation. We are saying your journey continues and there is no fixed rule that, you're going to end up in heaven or hell forever and ever. We don't have that kind of ideology at all. In fact, we dislike that idea that for certain activity you do, you get infinite reward forever, or for certain mistakes you make, get infinite damnation. We don't agree with that at all. All the 4 Indian religions don't agree with that. We believe in reincarnation, saying your journey starts, you get measured reward for the measured work you put in, and that's nothing more. But live with that. So it's an ongoing story, and we believe in cycles. This is the uniqueness of the Hindu tradition. If you cannot be a Hindu unless you believe in cycles. Now the cycles are as follows. Cycles of death and birth and death, reincarnation, very important feature of all the 4 Indian religions. The second idea is very important, is the idea of kalpa. It says time is cyclic. There is no eternal time. So the idea that we had in Newton that, you start time from minus infinity to plus infinity, that modern physics has said is rubbish, it's nonsense. You should look up Stephen Hawkins. Time is cyclic. You say cyclic, what do you mean? It means there is a beginning for time and an end for time. Time gets stopped, it goes yoo-hoo. So the time itself is cyclic. This is a central feature of the Indian tradition, Hindu tradition. It says time is cyclic. You can't say eternal, forever and ever. There's no eternal thing. Time itself comes to a halt and starts. This is the Big Bang theory of modern cosmology, and Hindus agree with it absolutely, saying yes, this is called kalpa in the Hindu tradition.
Thank you. So we have another set of questions from the Abrahamic religions that are challenging Hinduism. They say that how can Hindus justify making symbols of God when no one has seen God?
Very good question. You should ask these pointed questions because the Hindu must know and must be able to respond. The idea is this. We say in order for us to grasp anything that is subtle means difficult to kind of articulate, we use some kind of method to get our minds around it. Our minds operate in the field of the finite. Think about it. Everything I say, a string of words appears. These are finite words with specific meaning, and when you put them in a particular context, they have a different meaning. So the mind in a way operates in a finite world with finite vocabulary. So if you want to kind of understand ideas which are very subtle, which are very tiny or very big, etc., you need to create a vocabulary to handle these kind of very subtle ideas. And the best example I have used repeatedly is if you're doing mathematics and somebody said, oh, you can't do mathematics without infinite. When you do this differential equation, tends to infinity or tends to infinitesimal, you can't do calculus. The infinite is central in mathematics. So you say, but infinite is infinite. And if I tell a youngster in the school or college, oh, can you put infinite on the board? He says, no problem. He'll go and with a squiggle, kind of make a squiggle and like that and say, that's infinite, Mr. Lakhani. That's what we use in mathematics. I say, my boy, that's not infinite. That's number 8 that had too much to drink last night is toppled over. That is definitely finite. It's a tiddly little fellow who's fallen off. There's nothing like infinite. How dare you call it infinite? But you know what I mean. I know exactly what I mean. See what we do even in mathematics. We use symbolism, some kind of iconography in order to get our minds around very subtle issues. And this is the same with the Hindus. We are not apologetic at all about all these images. We say, to think of the ultimate reality, we personify the ultimate reality and build relationship with it because we are finite, so we require finite tools. Again, do you think I'm making it up? Let me give you the words. Very important for you to learn this. There's a Sanskrit term called prati. Prati means going towards. From the word prati, we derive 2 other words, pratika and pratima. Pratika means a symbol that will lead me somewhere. Where? The idea of spirit. So we use pratika, a symbol that will lead me to the infinite. The symbol is very finite, like the symbol Om. It's very finite. And yet it says this idea in a way invokes the idea of spirit in me. So I'm using this finite symbol to relate to the idea of infinite. So pratika, symbol. And then we use the other word, pratima, an image that will lead me to the spirituality. So the word prati says leading towards, going towards, like tending towards infinite. But we require a finite way, and these finite ways are pratika and pratima. So if somebody challenges you saying, you're idolatrous, everybody's idolatrous, we are simply being very clear that as we operate in the field of the finite, we require finite tools to relate to the idea of infinite. You cannot do it any other way. In mathematics, you can't do it without infinite. So same is true with spirituality. So once you recognize it, then you don't vilify this idea that we are idolaters. Check up any Hindu. Do they go in the temple and say, oh, marble, we worship you? They never talk like they're not worshipping objects. They're worshipping the idea behind those marble statues or marble images. So be it. This is our way.
Thank you very much. And that last question that challenges Hinduism from Abrahamic people is that what about divorces in Hinduism? Are divorced or widowed women sent off to some ashram?
Thankfully, not otherwise the women will be very upset. They're not be forced to join an ashram because they become widows or divorced. Okay. The ancient tradition said, this is a tradition, it's an evolving tradition. We are an evolving religion. We don't mind saying that. We are not fixated, oh, this is written in a book, you can't change. We say, think for yourself. So in the ancient time, the idea was this, that even if a person, for whatever reason, wants to divorce his wife, because of course normally men will say, okay, I want to divorce my wife. Then the religion obliged them to look after that woman throughout her life. So make sure her upkeep is there. The person is forced to pay for her, the whole village or the town will make sure the husband continues to look after the upkeep of that female who has been divorced. This was the old idea. Now modern India is modern in every sense, and we say we follow this idea of one man, one wife. But if for some reason the wife says, I don't like this fellow, he's a male chauvinist pig, I want to divorce him, we say fair enough. You got the civil law and you can divorce him. You don't need to go join an ashram or become necessarily spiritual. Maybe you want to, but we don't know. But then you can lead your own life, stand on your own feet and sort yourself out. We wish you well.
Thank you very much. I would like to say thank you to the people who put forward these questions that challenges Hinduism, because it helps, it enlightens us, and it gives us the additional information and puts everything in context for us all. We have a question from David Leandro. Thank you very much for your question and welcome. It says, you would like to connect to Hinduism and bring spirituality to your life. Where do I begin and how do I do it? Thank you so much for your question.
If you are sincere, look, we are not here in a way selling copyrights of Hinduism or rubber stamping you as Hindu. We have no such ideology at all. Some of the ideas we possess are very universal, suited to whole of modern humanity. In fact, I keep promoting this in the media in the UK all the time. The ideas that I promote are the idea of religious pluralism, many ways to be spiritual, allow different people to unfold spiritual in the mode that suits their own temperament. It's a very beautiful feature right at the heart of Hinduism. Allows people of many religions to coexist as well as people of no religion to feel comfortable. They like science and music, and this is how they become spiritual. Good for you. So this is the breadth of vision of pluralism. I keep promoting that. The second thing that comes like a thunderbolt out of the ancient esoteric Hinduism is the idea that what you are searching for as a god in the upper atmosphere, this heaven, is not there, is here. He's lighting up the whole of the living kingdom, becomes most clearly visible as men and women. See and serve God in humanity. This is called spiritual humanism. It's in stark contrast to Richard Dawkins' version of materialistic humanism, which I challenge. I said, no, if you say you are just a lump of carbon, you destroyed all my dignities. Oh no, you're humanist. What humanist? You destroyed my whole essential aspect to my being. I'm a spiritual being with a material frame. This is called spiritual humanism. So these are the two ideas I plug into the system, left, right, and center, and I succeed. Wherever I do assemblies with youngsters, thinking youngsters who are already brainwashed, they immediately fall in love with these two ideas. But there's a third thing. You said, how do I make progress, my friend? This is my very personal advice to you. It's nice to go and look at the ancient scriptures, the Vedas and Upanishads, and get lost in it. If you like to do that, good for you. But if you are genuine and sincere and want to really make quick progress, focus on modern personalities the Hindus have produced who talk about the same ideas you see in the Vedas suited to our own times. And the person who caught my attention was Vivekananda and Ramakrishna and Ramana Maharshi. I'm not saying just these are the only three enlightened people. Find someone who's enlightened in our own time, not 1,000 years back, in our own times, and don't even look at their teachings, look at their lives. These are the most thrilling part, the most enlightened. When you look at their lives in a way reflect their own spiritual journey and makes you feel, when you look at the life of Vivekananda, he started as a youngster, weaned on the kathas and so on, and then he became a rationalist and became an atheist. And then unless somebody said, I can show God to you, he said, I'm not going to believe in it. So you see this transition in Vivekananda's life, and this is the transition for whole of humanity. So when you look at the life stories of these grand personalities, perhaps this is the easiest way to be spiritual.
Thank you very much for that question. It was a very interesting question, and I understand that quite a few people will be wanting to try and bring spirituality into their lives. So basically, you're trying to look at the inner beauty of somebody, and somebody who is a little bit more spiritual and shows that inner beauty, and that shines out. A comment that Siva Das has made, that yes, all animals give, and all animals are beautiful, and but the thing is, the only animal that is not beautiful or not very good is the human being. The human being at the top of the chain is the only animal I think is the most worst kind of animal that exists at the moment. Anyway, so we have the next question here.
I think you can see that this really touches you, because you can see human beings have been really very cruel to other living creatures and the whole environment too. They can destroy this environment. So this comment is very valid. There's another question I see here which says, why should we believe in heaven and hell? Because nobody comes back from there. And what is this idea? First of all, in the Hindu tradition, we don't have eternal heaven or hell. We simply say between lifetimes, there's a period of, if you like, rest, if you like, where you either create a universe of your own, like you do in the dream state, and that may be heavenly, because if you are a nice character, you create a very nice, lovely place to exist in. If you are a hellish person, very kind of cruel person, you create a very cruel environment to live there. So heaven and hell, I feel like our own construct between different, if you like, between this reincarnation. We don't have eternal heaven and hell. At the same time, there are certain areas, we say, certain realms, which have kind of other living things of higher beings, which are kind of called Devlok, etc. Look, I have not experienced it, so I'd rather not say too much about it. But we don't have eternal heaven and hell in the Hindu tradition, thankfully not.
Thank you so much for that. And just on that note, we will be having a special program on the 21st looking at a life after death. So that will be on the 21st. Please do look out for that. We'll be posting it on Facebook to inform you a little bit more about that. So Sivadas, thank you so much for that question and bringing that up to us. We have a question from Ujjwal Singh, which is that you have a stand that says, God is, my stand is that there is no God. God is but only an idea. Like a country, we make up God by our good actions. Yes, I think we've already established that.
I agree. In fact, as Padma quite rightly says, that is true. You see, in the Abrahamic tradition, they say God makes human beings in his image. The Hindu tradition, no. We make God in our image. So it's our idea. If you are human, we like to think of a superhuman. So if you've got one head, we say, no, God must have 4 heads. Oh, if you have 2 arms, no, God must have 6 arms. So we can, in a way, project the idea of God based on our human condition, exaggerated human, a superhuman. That is quite right. And Vivekananda said something very good. Suppose we were camels. We think God is a camel with not 1 or 2 humps, but 3 humps. Superhuman, super camel. So this is, if you like, human projection. I agree with that.
Okay, thank you so much. So people, everybody, don't forget that we will be having a special event, a special program broadcast on the 21st, which will be looking at life after death. And we'll be in the presence of Mr. Lakhani ji and a learned scholar who is doing some research on this event. And so hopefully you will join us on that occasion also. It will be immediately after our normal broadcast.
Okay. Can I just add on? There's a young lady called Emily who's written a couple of books on near-death experience. Now this is very important because near-death experience in a way says that the idea that something continues to survive after one person dies is in stark contrast to a highly materialistic vision regarding the world. So near-death experience gives us a glimpse into something that continues to exist after the body comes to an end, stops working. So this is a very interesting, and there's an English girl called Emily who has done tremendous research, written a couple of books. So she said, can I come on TV with you, Mr. Lakhani, and go on Facebook and explore this idea of near-death experience and how, in a way, it influences our way we look at the human condition, the nature of reality, the idea of God, religion, etc. So I said, wonderful. So next Saturday, 1:30 roughly will be our normal session, and then from 2 to 3, perhaps 1 hour, we will be talking to this young lady called Emily, and we'll be asking her questions, trying to find out exactly what is the level of her research, etc., what is her conclusion. So please do join us next week, which will be a long Facebook session from 2 to 3 in the afternoon.
Wonderful. So looking forward to seeing you all there. We have a question here. This will be our last question for today. How many religions did Ramakrishna
Paramahansa
practice and perfected?
Yes, you see, interesting fellow this Ramakrishna, because you see, first of all, at a very young age, he was able to experience the whole of the creation as Brahman, as the spirit. Actually, you can experience that. Suddenly the whole world with open eyes, you see, is a different thing. And this is his beginning of his spiritual journey. At a very young age, he managed to experience this Brahma, it's called Brahma Gnan. And then he said, he wasn't satisfied. He said, why can't I think God, the ultimate reality, is a super personality? So he spent next 7-8 years, whatever, perfecting the idea of worshipping the mother goddess, Jagdamba, saying, I want to see the ultimate reality, not as a principle of all the Brahman nonsense. I want to see as a personality and interact with her, play with her, talk to her, ask her questions. And he perfected that. So he was able to experience God as a mother goddess. Then was it satisfied? God is a principle, Brahman, God is a personality, mother goddess. Was he satisfied? No, he was a greedy fellow. He said, no, I want to experience God in many different ways. So he said, let me try out all the different Hindu traditional movements, Vaishnava tradition, the Shakta movement, the Shiva movement, to see if I can experience the same God using these different Hindu traditions, different sectarian approaches. And he tried that and he succeeded in all of them. And the wonderful thing is, at the end of it, the final destination is same. I get the same experience with them experiencing Brahman or Atman or Mother Goddess. When I go to the apex, the culmination of that experience, I hit the same jackpot. This is why it's a wonderful example of a person, a pluralist, true pluralist, who experienced, not just believed in it. Then did he stop there? I told you he's a greedy chap. He wanted to experiment with Christianity and Islam. And he did that very devoutly. So when he was acting, worshipping the idea of Islam, etc., he would not go into the temple. He would do namaz 5 times a day, etc. And he was following the prescription of Islam thoroughly. And he said, I've got the same destination. Same thing with Christianity. He had this tremendous love for Christ, and he said, he had the vision of Christ, and this is again true. So the same thing was visible in his life. He practiced many different ways of experiencing spirituality using Hindu tradition as well as non-Hindu tradition, and he's the best example of real pluralism, genuine pluralism. I think we should finish with that, Padma.
I think so. It
Thank
would
you
be
very
lovely
much.
to have you all. Hello, Dilip ji, and we hope to see you next week on 21st, where extra long session where we will be looking at near-death experiences and our normal Hinduism Q&A.